I used to get mad at my school. The teachers who taught me weren't cool. The students started to dance and sway, enjoying themselves, but the administrators in the front row looked upset. This music wasn't allowed. They began to murmur. A little better all the time. Can't get no worse. Finally, the administrators had had enough. They pointed charging towards the stage. They directed that familiar to us snitch Haritonov to interfere. He stopped tapping his feet to the music and climbed up onto the stage. The Schmiedels continued to play and sing, the students cheering. Haritonov pulled the power cable out. The stage turned dark and almost silent. Only the jeans drums and our voices singing a cappella. Haritonov walked towards us, but I stepped in front of Beata and confronted him when Beata's hand snapped around my wrist and pulled me back to the door leading into the hallway. I probably looked mortified, but Beata was smiling. She grabbed my face and kissed me passionately, and I kissed her. This was the first time I called her Your Majesty. We stumbled backwards into a supply closet and, still kissing, slammed the door. Then it felt like fate. But in a few years, it turned into a nightmare.
In the mid-70s, disappointed by the stagnation, lack of freedom of speech and music, and finally an extremely limited variety of blue jeans, many of their generation started to emigrate to the West. Petrovsky and Beata were together for several years, and despite the constant pressure of the Soviet occupation, those were the years they'd shared. But their relationship wasn't enough to blot out the bleak despair that had come from the occupation. They talked about it, argued about it, for days, weeks, possibly even months. Petrovsky started to receive letters from the West from some of his luckier friends. The envelopes were wider than the standard local ones and even smelled differently. After all, they contained some air from the free world outside. Who else but Petrovsky would sense that smell with his large nose, the sense of smell being his third or second if not the first one? Petrovsky read each letter several times until he almost knew them by heart. He typed his replies using a typewriter so that invisible secret police proofreaders wouldn't have any problem deciphering his scribbles. In one of the letters, a former colleague, Howard, said hello to the guys at the theater, where they worked after graduation, and Petrovsky thought nothing of reading it out loud to them. A few days later, about to leave from work, he saw an announcement on the wall near the door. An ad hoc meeting of the Komsomol will be held today at 1800 hours in the Red Lenin Room. The meeting is voluntary, but attendance is strongly mandatory. Realizing that he's no longer a Komsomol member as he had to gladly denounce his membership to be able to apply for immigration, noticing the word voluntary and chuckling at the mandatory, Petrovsky didn't lose a step towards the exit door.
Where are you going?
Turning around, Petrovsky saw a very familiar face, which was unusual enough to be recognized once you ever saw it. The two halves of his face just didn't quite match. Not enough to be ugly, but well over creepy. Both sides smiled, but while the right side was an empty, polite smile, the left side was a sneering, accusatory grimace. A bad cop and a good cop in one? Or rather, a bad cop and Cop the Terrible.
Home? See, I'm not in the Komsomol.
Where are you going? Israel or US?
How's it your business?
Petrovsky stopped smiling, having recognized the guy, and at the same time, realized how come he knew about the communications with a friend in Israel. Haritonov, now a mature man wearing a dark gray suit and a black tie, had his hair cut unfashionably short, to either hide or show a growing bald spot, definitely in full compliance with KGB appearance guidelines.
Why don't you attend the meeting and find out? It is mandatory. Sorry, we didn't translate it for you. We didn't know which language you would prefer, Hebrew or English.
The thought to exit and shut the door in front of the double-faced prick crossed Vetrovsky's mind, but he understood that the guy could probably shut another door for him. A much more important door. So grudgingly he sat through a 3-hour meeting dedicated, as he soon found out, personally to him and his friend Drug, who was in the exact same refusnik situation. Vetrovsky's public reading of the letter from the West was equal to an act of treason to his motherland, fighting in the Cold War on enemy's side, encouraging people to emigrate, opposing the system and propaganda of the decaying West, and many other curiosities bordering on heinous crimes. Drug's crime was being a willing, and no less sinister, accomplice in this international outrage. The double-faced KZB guy put his ugly half out.
The comrades up there wanted you brought in. And it wasn't about this letter. But where is this letter from? Isn't it strange that you applied to emigrate to Israel, yet receive letters from the US? How's that? Isn't it our business to understand? Okay, Comrade Vet. Strike that. Citizen Petrovsky, we are actually doing you a favor. I have personally volunteered to use the letter as a smaller crime, or rather wrongdoing, to get you gently slapped. After all, we know each other, right? Have you forgotten to remember to forget? Tell you what, for now, just promise, in front of this meeting, that you won't repeat this outrageous misdeed, and will report that you recognized your evil ways.
Yeah, okay. I won't do what I haven't done anyway. I won't do that.
And tell my Israeli colleagues to find you a phony relative closer than a third cousin of a maternal grandfather's daughter-in-law from the previous marriage. Get a new invitation and apply again. Ask for Haritonov. I probably have closer relatives in Bangladesh.
I thought to myself that I didn't doubt that. What with this dictatorship, civil wars and famine they have. I noticed Haritonov's evil side indeed resembled one Bangladeshi general I'd seen in a newspaper photo. With eyebrows Brezhnev would envy. But I kept those thoughts to myself and just nodded.